My name is Ben Zender, and I'm an attorney in practice here in Orleans, and I'm going to be your judge today. So I'm going to essentially let you try your case. I'm not going to really participate in any meaningful way unless you ask me to make rulings on objections. I will be scoring your performances and all the issues of judgment on the case itself today. So what I would ask is that the teams just first introduce yourselves. You don't need to introduce your witnesses, but counsel introduce yourselves, and then when you're ready, then the plaintiff, the prosecution can make their opening statement on the defense, and then you give the witnesses. So, and first of all, anybody who's going to testify today, witnesses, would you all please stand up? Okay, and raise your hands. And do you all swear to tell the truth?
We still have one in the bathroom.
We still have one in the bathroom.
Okay, well, why don't we wait? We'll just everybody face the bathroom, so when they come out. Okay. As soon as your witness comes out of the bathroom, we'll swear the witnesses and we'll begin, okay? Raise your hands. And do you all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, according to the rules of Montreal, the simplified rules? Okay, all set. Okay, so we'll start with the introduction of counsel and then the opening statement of the prosecution. Prosecution can go first introducing your team.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I'd first like to introduce myself. My name is Eli Sorrenti Burns, and I will be conducting the direct examination of Aubrey Oliger and presenting the opening statement as well.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. My colleagues will introduce themselves.
My name is Katie Clark. I will be doing the cross-examination of Mark Blood and the direct examination of Greg Mansky, and I will be also be doing the closing.
Thank you.
My name is Anthony Mooring. I'll be doing the direct examination of Lee Buchanal, and I will also be doing the cross-examination of Gail Gordon.
Thank you.
My name is Dylan Kosvick, and I'll be playing expert witness Aubrey Oliver.
Okay, would the defense like to introduce, is that your entire counsel team?
Yeah, that's from my school. Pretty large.
Okay, would the defense like to introduce their team?
Good afternoon. I'm Rachel Mumford, and I will be presenting the opening statement.
Thank you, Rachel.
Good afternoon. My name is Cyrus Rafi, and I'll be presenting the cross-examination of Greg Mansky.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Jessica Williams, and I will be conducting the cross-examination of Lee Buchanal.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Victoria Valentino, and I'll be conducting the direct of Gail Gordon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Natalie Sweeney, and I will be conducting the direct examination of Matt Mark.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Bailey Rose, and I will be conducting the direct examination of Mac Blood.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Francesca Galazzi, and I'll be presenting the closing statements for the defense.
Okay, is the prosecution ready to proceed?
Yes.
Call your first witness.
Opening statement.
Opening statement.
Oh, I am so sorry.
That's okay. That's my bad.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, the prosecution's open.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Today we will hear the case of the United States of America versus Nat Hart. My counsel and I represent the government of the United States. As the prosecution, it is our burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Nat Hart violated 18 U.S.C. section number 242 when he shot and killed Ray Lugansky. On the evening of September 7, 2018, a police officer of the town of Gavish, Massachusetts, named Nat Hart killed Ray Lugansky, the cousin of Greg Humansky. The two cousins looked identical. The shooting was a case of mistaken identity, yet Hart had intended to kill Greg Humansky. Hart despised Greg Humansky as a result of prior interactions and assumptions that he made of Humansky. As Hart shot and killed Ray, Hart committed a violation of 18 U.S.C.A. section number 242. In general, Nat Hart had been a respectable police officer. However, Hart had a weakness where Greg Humansky was concerned. Whenever Greg Humansky was involved in a situation, Officer Hart became an unprofessional, concerning, and ultimately violent officer. Hart harassed Humansky, a Gavish local of Tenerbian descent, and made bizarre assumptions about his local activities. Without any evidence at all, Hart decided that Humansky was selling drugs to the community. Lee Buchanal of the FBI will testify to the fact that after investigating Gray for months, he found absolutely no evidence of drug use or sales. Hart also claims that Greg Humansky murdered an associate, yet the criminal justice system never even filed such a charge. Hart believed that Gray got away with murder and that anger drove him to behave in an irrational and vindictive way. Officer Hart's grudge against Greg Humansky led him to bizarre actions. Hart continuously threatened Gray and weakly pulled him over without a cause. Humansky and Lee Buchanal will testify that Hart harassed Gray every chance Hart got. On one of these occasions, Hart drummed up speeding charges. When Gray explained that the address on his license was no longer valid, Hart simply laughed and went ahead and sent a court summons there anyway. It was Gray's inability to show up for this court summons that ultimately got Ray Luganski killed. On the evening of September 7th, Officer Hart repeatedly drove by Gray Humanski's store. When Ray Luganski came out to the street, Officer Hart mistook him for Gray Humanski and attempted to apprehend him, supposedly based on the fact that Gray had missed this said court date. However, poor Ray Luganski did not speak English. He was just in the States visiting his cousins to learn from their business skills. So Ray Luganski couldn't understand what the aggressive police officer wanted. He simply walked away and put his hands up. When Officer Hart continued yelling, Ray turned back around and asked in Tenurbian, "Sorry, I don't understand." At this point, Officer Hart shot and killed this innocent man. Ray Luganski was unarmed. He never even had a gun. Officer Hart claims he saw Ray reaching for what he mistakenly believed was a gun in his right hand, yet Officer Hart is well aware that Gray Humanski was left-handed. Officer Hart claims that it was so important that he apprehend Gray for missing a court date that he couldn't possibly let him get away. Yet he never called in backup for a man he believed to be violent and on drugs. Officer Hart's reactions on September 7th were irrational and unreasonable. They were not the acts of a calm professional. As the prosecution, we have the burden to prove all elements of the law. We will show that Officer Hart was acting under the color of law when he willfully deprived Ray Luganski of his right to life. When Hart shot Ray Luganski, Hart was acting, without a doubt, under the color of law. You will hear that Hart was seen and acknowledged as an officer and arrived on the scene in a police cruiser, and, while acting as an officer, killed Ray Luganski. Willfulness, according to Screws versus the United States, indicates an action done with malice intent. Hart thought Gray Humanski contributed to his own town's drug problem and got away with murder by being a privileged man with powerful parents. Hart was obsessed with retaliation for Gray for his perceived wrongdoings. On the evening of September 7th, Mac Blood will testify that Hart did not attack the same as he had under any other situation. Hart was acting based on emotion when he killed the person he believed to be the person he hated. He wanted to kill Gray Humanski. Aubrey Oliger, an expert witness, will then testify that Hart broke general police protocol. A weapon needs to be in the victim's hand for a cop to legally raise their firearm. Lee Bugenal will testify that while Hart vocalized his threat to shoot, the gunshot immediately followed, without any time for Ray to change his or her behavior after Hart threatened to shoot. An objectively reasonable officer in this situation would have not acted the same way. Hart shot who he believed to be Gray Humanski because of the animosity between them. Today, you will see that the prosecution, as representatives of the United States of America, will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Nat Hart, while acting under color of law, had malice intent and had acted in an objectively unreasonable way when he took the life of Ray Luganski. Thank you, Your Honor.
May I submit the stipulations of the parties as evidence?
You may.
May I approach the bench?
You may. Thank you. You may proceed.
Your Honor, we are brought here today to hear a case of mistaken identity. Officer Nat Hart has been charged with the murder of Ray Luganski. Today, we will present evidence to prove that Officer Nat Hart is not guilty of this crime. What happened on September 7th, 2018 was a mere accident. Anyone could mistake Ray Luganski for Gray Humanski. Not only were they cousins, they were absolutely identical. Furthermore, there was a warrant out for Gray's arrest, a clear reason for Officer Hart to be wary of this individual. Nat Hart, a skilled police officer with an unblemished record, will testify that they believed their life was on the line when they encountered Ray, who reached for something when their hands should have been in the air. Mac Blood, a reliable worker at Gavish's music store, Wicked Vinyl, will attest that Officer Hart genuinely thought that Ray Luganski was Gray Humanski. They will also testify that Ray and Gray were so identical that Mac had even mistaken Ray for Gray earlier in the day. Mac Blood will also attest that Officer Hart acted professionally regarding a previous attempted robbery at Wicked Vinyl. Finally, Gail Gordon will use his expertise in the field use of force as well as crime scene reconstruction and investigation to attest that it would take less than a second for Ray to pull a gun from a shoulder holster and shoot Officer Hart. So it was crucial to think and act as fast as possible, even if that meant shooting someone to protect the lives of a police officer and the citizens of Gavish. Your Honor, the events that occurred on September 7th were not the fault of a reliable police officer. Nat Hart chose to keep the community safe and acted for the greater good. The only way the events on September 7th could have been prevented was if Gray Humansky had come to court on the day of his summons, like any conscientious citizen of Gavish would. Therefore, Your Honor, we ask you to find the verdict in favor of the defense and Officer Nat Hart. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel.
I'll leave you to the stand. Can you please state your name for the court?
My name is Lee Bugenal.
What do you do for work, Mr. Bugle?
I work for the FBI.
And what did you do before joining the FBI?
I was a municipal officer.
What did you do after college?
I became a municipal officer and worked in sting operations.
And what exactly did you do for this job?
I investigated suspected criminals of drug and weapon use.
Could you describe to the court your most recent assignment for the FBI?
I was assigned to an area near Boston in Massachusetts to examine the subject, Gray Humansky.
Why were you assigned to Gray Humansky?
He was suspected of drug use and sale.
And what, if any, evidence did you find while working on this case that would implicate that Gray Humansky was being involved with drugs?
I have not found any evidence.
Did you find anything else surprising over the course of your investigation?
Not really.
Mr. Bugenal, did you directly observe any interactions between Gray Humansky and Officer Hart?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell us exactly what happened on the night of May 25th?
We met at a local Tenerian bar, and then Gray told me that we had to go back to one of the stores. So I got in the car with him and we left. And so when we got to the store, he told me to stay in the car.
And what happened next?
I heard shots fired.
And what happened to Gray after this incident?
Happened to Gray?
Yes.
He was being escorted out of the building by Officer Hart.
And what happened when he got back to the police station?
He was let go to have a night for himself.
And what was the reaction of Officer Hart?
He was very
Your Honor,
angry.
a leading question.
Could you repeat the question, Counsel?
What was the reaction of Officer Hart?
The objection is denied.
So,
Officer Hart was very angry at this.
And what was the next interaction you observed between Gray Humansky and Officer Hart?
On August 11th, Officer Hart pulled over Gray. And I.
And what happened?
We were coming back from an Eastern Urban Freedom Heritage meeting, and he claimed that Gray had been speeding.
And did he give him a ticket?
Yes, he did.
And I'm sorry, I thought you said Gray wasn't speeding, yet Officer Hart gave him a speeding citation anyways?
Yeah, it seemed to me like we were not traveling in excess, but Officer Hart said that we were.
Now, may I turn your attention to the night of September 7th? Where were you on the night of September 7th?
I was in my squad car listening to the Red Sox.
And what abnormal activities did you observe?
I had not seen any unusual activities in my nightly surveillances.
What happened on the night of September 7th, please?
I saw Officer Hart shot Ray Lugansky.
And what happened when Officer Hart arrived on the scene? Start there, please.
He drove by in his squad car, and over the next 30 minutes, I saw him drive by a few more times.
And did he park his car there and arrive there?
On the second or third pass, he stopped and he turned the engine off.
And what happened when he got out of his cruiser?
He tried to stop what looked like Humansky, but it turned out to be Ray Lugansky.
And what happened after that?
He yelled at Lugansky to stop, and Lugansky put his hands up but didn't understand.
And what happened after Hart said that?
He believed that Ray was pulling a gun and drew his weapon.
And what happened next?
He shot Ray Lugansky.
And what did you see after that gunshot was fired?
I saw the victim on the ground and
Thank
then
you.
shot.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Would the defense like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Williams?
Good afternoon, Mr. Duganall.
Good afternoon.
Is it true that you are of Tenurbian descent
Yes, it is.
and that you have very strong ties to your community?
I do.
You work as an undercover agent for the FBI, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
In early 2018, you were involved to work on a case involving Gray Humansky, correct?
That is correct.
And your job was to investigate whether Gray was selling illegal substances.
Yes, it is.
And your supervisor asked you if you would have any problem going undercover to catch an East Tenurbian.
Yes, he did.
And you yourself wasn't sure if this would be an issue due to your personal background.
At first, but I got over it.
And wouldn't that imply that your supervisor had doubts about your ability to remain impartial in the case involving Gray Humansky?
Originally, yes.
You said that after meeting Humansky, the two of you hit it off, correct?
Yes, we did.
And you became close?
Due to our heritage, we connected.
And you even attended weekly meetings of the East Tenurbian Freedom Heritage together?
Yes, we did.
But even so, you would lie about your backgrounds, for example, telling Gray that your grandparents had been killed in the revolution and other such lies.
Yes, it was important to keep my cover.
Yes or no answers, please? Thank you. You were present the night Gray Humansky killed someone in the Humansky store, was that correct?
Yes, I was.
And as was Officer Hart?
Yes.
So Officer Hart had precedent to believe that Gray Humansky was predisposed to violence, is that correct?
Possible.
But Officer Hart knew that Humansky had shot someone not once but twice before?
Yes.
You were present on the night of September 7th, 2018, correct?
Yes,
And you witnessed the shooting from an alley across the street?
I did.
Do you think that you had a clear view of what took place?
Pretty clear.
But you were across the street and you yourself said that your vision was obscured with trees.
Yes.
So wouldn't that imply that you couldn't clearly see what was happening between Officer Hart and Ray Lugansky?
Not everything.
You observed Officer Hart instruct the person that she believed to be Gray Humansky to, quote, stop and raise your hands. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wouldn't this imply that Officer Hart was trying to avoid a violent altercation?
Possibly.
Now, as we previously established, you witnessed the shooting of Ray Lugansky, whom at the time you believed to be Gray Humansky, correct?
Yes.
But you didn't act because you feared to blow your cover.
Yes.
If you believed Gray Humansky to be dead, then there would be no reason about worrying about blowing your cover, isn't that correct?
It could have been unsafe for the citizens around.
As we've established, you were across the street when you witnessed the shooting, correct?
Yes.
So you couldn't see or recognize the fear that Officer Hart was undergoing?
Not necessarily.
And you cannot understand the emotions that Officer Hart was feeling in that situation, is that correct?
Not fully.
Mr. Buganall, because of your Tenurbian heritage, your background with Gray Humansky, and your core viewpoint of the shooting, isn't it reasonable to assume that you are not the most reliable witness to describe this event?
Absolutely not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Prosecution want to redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. What did Hart say before the shot was fired?
Hart says, Hart said, Humansky, stop and raise your hands.
And what exactly did you see after the gunshot?
It looked as if Ray was facing Hart with their hands up.
And exactly what happened after the gunshot was fired?
I saw them on the ground, they had been shot.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect? No, recross, I'm sorry, recross.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Yes, I would like to recross.
Please do.
You say that you did hear Officer Hart instruct Ray Lugansky to raise their hands, correct?
Yes.
And the action that took place preceding that would imply that Hart was trying to de-escalate the situation, correct?
Possibly.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. You may step down. Would the prosecution like to call another witness?
Prosecution would like to call Gray Humansky to the stand.
Humansky. Ms. Humansky.
Could you please state your name, age, and address for the court?
My name is Gray Humansky. I'm 26 years old, and I currently live at 175 Forest Street, Martin's Landing, Massachusetts.
Ms. Humansky, where did you reside before moving to your current address?
I lived at 340 Parker Street in Sulphurville, Massachusetts.
Can you give some insight as to how you ended up in America?
My grandparents moved from East Tenerbia to avoid persecution from the Tenerbian revolt and moved to Massachusetts with my parents.
When did you first meet Officer Hart?
It was May 25th of this year, and I had returned to my family's store in Gavish, Massachusetts. And while I was taking money out of the safe, there was a thief trying to steal from the store. And when I noticed that the thief pointed a weapon at me, I shot back, which killed the thief. And Officer Hart was an officer on that scene that night.
Would you say that Officer Hart held any sort of previous notion of you after this event?
Yes, he continuously tried to convict me of murder, even though I was just acting in self-defense, and held that grudge against me for a very long time.
Do you feel that Officer Hart had ever harassed you?
Yes, on multiple occasions.
Could you describe one of these occasions?
Well, on 2 past occasions, he had pulled me over, once with Lee Bugenal when he testified that, and the other time it was just me. Both of the times I was leaving the East Tenerbian Freedom Heritage meeting, and although I didn't do anything wrong, he just pulled me over and didn't tell me why.
And in your affidavit, you say that one time Officer Hart pulled you over and began to search your car for something to convict you with. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, he asked me if I had any weapons, and I told him that I did have a license to carry, so there was a gun in my left holster. And then he continued to search my car for something, and when he didn't find anything, he gave me a citation for reckless vehicle.
And can you properly wield your licensed weapon?
Yes.
And how did you learn how to?
From an early on, my parents have taught me that I should defend myself and I should be prepared for any situation. So from an early age, I learned how to shoot, and it's just something that I've always done.
Did you go to a sort of shooting range?
Yeah, I often go to gun clubs to shoot.
And Ms. Humansky, are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm left-handed.
And did you have a left-handed instructor?
I did, yes, which was very helpful.
Now, Ms. Humansky, you mentioned before that you moved to a new address. And did Officer Hart know of your move and the new mailing address?
Well, when he pulled me over and gave me a citation, and I told him that the address on my license was not accurate anymore because I had recently moved, he just shook it off and said, okay, but I didn't receive any citations or summons in the mail.
No further questions, Warren.
Thank you, Counsel. Would the defense like to cross-examine?
Yes, sir. Good. You come from Tenerbian ancestry, correct?
I did.
Your grandparents immigrated to the United States to avoid persecution from West Tenerbia.
They did.
However, they did end up being persecuted by the United States government when they got them.
Unfortunately.
So you have a history with persecution from the American administration that precedes the events in this case.
I did.
Thank you. Now, you said that you're a supporter of the East Tenerbian Freedom Heritage, right?
Yeah, I'm very proud of my heritage.
This is a group to help the people from East Tenerbia, right?
It is.
And you still have family living there.
I do.
And you've been a significant financial contributor to this organization.
I have. I work hard.
In fact, you've gone so far to say that you're prepared to do whatever it takes to support this cause. Right?
I said that in my affidavit.
And you are related to the deceased Ray Lugansky, correct?
Yeah.
He was your cousin?
Mm-hmm.
And you did spend a decent amount of time with him?
Yeah, he was a really hard worker.
And you got to bond with him a bit for your work?
We did.
And you also find that his death now was a murder, correct?
I do.
You often carry your gun with you, right?
I do. I have license to carry.
And you often practice using it?
I do.
As your question?
Yes.
Regularly?
I would say so.
In fact, you've even shot someone in the chest and killed them with it, right? Before.
In self-defense, yes.
And another time you shot someone in the leg.
Accidentally.
That would make you pretty dangerous with a gun, wouldn't you say?
I wouldn't say so.
But those are serious injuries, right?
They are.
And they were committed by you.
They were.
No further questions.
Thank you. Prosecution like to redirect?
Who would not, Your Honor?
Thank you, Counsel. Prosecution like to call on the witness?
The prosecution would like to call the expert witness, Aubrey Oliver, to the stand.
Ms. Oliver? Mr. Oliver?
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Yep, please do.
Please state your name and age for the court.
My name is Aubrey Oliger, and I'm 48 years old.
What kind of education have you received?
I received a Bachelor's of Science degree in psychology from the University of Wisconsin in 1992.
Mr. Oliver, what is your current job and how long have you been there for?
Currently, I work as a special instructor for the Federal Institute in support of local law enforcement, and I've been working there for 10 years.
And what duties does this profession entail?
I provide advice and consultation services to federal law enforcement agencies regarding misconduct of police officers.
Mr. Oliver, what was your previous job?
Previously, I worked as a special investigator for the Independent Police Review Authority.
For how long have you worked as an investigator with the Chicago, Illinois Independent Police Review Authority?
I worked there for 10 years as well.
What did you do at the IPRA?
At the IPRA, I reviewed cases of police officers from the Chicago Police Department regarding alleged excessive use of force.
Why did you leave the IPRA?
I left because I felt an institutional bias towards those officers I saw.
What did you do after finishing your work at the IPRA?
After the IPRA, I started my research project and I became a professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where I taught psychology, criminal investigation, and some other courses.
Can you tell me about your research project?
It was funded by the U.S. Department of Justice, and basically it reviewed cases of, the standard training procedure for police officers, and it sought better ways to improve those training procedures in order to prevent dangerous altercations between the public and officers.
What are the outcomes of this research?
It led to our creation of our program called A Better Way, which basically improved the safety of those altercations.
Is this program widely implemented by law enforcement agencies?
Yes, to date, 227 agencies have adopted our program.
Mr. Oliver, have you written any scholarly articles that would be relevant to your testimony today?
I have. I've written 6 peer-reviewed articles regarding excessive use of force and to improve the safety of interaction between public and officers.
Your Honor, at this time I would like to request Aubrey Oliger to be entered into your account as an expert witness.
Any objections by the defense?
Yes, there are, Your Honor. Due to the fact that Mr. Oliger has not received a master's degree and has admitted to having an institution and is admitting to believing there is a bias against police officers.
Okay, the request is to admit the expert as an expert is approved.
Thank you. Your Honor. Mr. Oliger, please describe to the court the police protocol regarding the use of a deadly firearm.
This fundamental protocol prohibits a police officer from raising their firearm unless they they know a weapon is in the individual's hand.
So if an officer suspected a gun was hidden from view on an individual's body, could the officer legally raise the firearm and point at him?
No, they would have to know that the individual had a weapon.
Was Officer Hart acting in accordance to this vital police protocol previously stated?
They were not. Hart violated this fundamental protocol when they raised their firearm in the presence of Luganski when he was in fact unarmed. Even if Luganski was reaching down for a weapon, Hart didn't know or didn't see it as there, and he could not holster his gun lawfully.
Why is it dangerous for a police officer to base their actions off emotional responses?
In stressful situations, which I should add they should be prepared for, it's important that they don't base their actions off emotional response because it could lead to a dangerous misunderstanding.
What should an officer base their actions on?
They should instead base their actions off facts and circumstances.
Do you believe that Officer Hart unnecessarily escalated the situation?
Yes, he did. It was because of his negative emotion showed towards humanity that led to Luganski's death.
What was Officer Hart's first reaction when Luganski walked away from him?
He proceeded to escalate the situation.
Mr. Olger, were Officer Hart's actions one of an intimidated officer?
No, they were not. These weren't the actions of a scared or frightened police officer. He was looking to instigate an altercation.
Why would Hart be looking to instigate an altercation?
According to the affidavit of Greg Umansky, prior instances showed that provided proof that Hart could hold a grudge against Humansky. For instance, he issued a traffic violation to the wrong address after needlessly pulling right over.
Your Honor, I would like to turn your attention to the night of September 7th. Mr. Olger, how would you characterize Officer Hart's behavior?
He engaged in a steady pattern of unnecessarily escalating the situation.
What created the deadly situation of September 7th?
It was his misconduct he showed towards Gansky.
How so? Can you expand?
He, like I said, he escalated the situation by pulling out the firearm.
Did Officer Hart call for backup?
No, they did not.
What did Officer Hart do instead?
Instead, they attempted to apprehend the victim alone.
Do you believe that this action was odd or out of the ordinary?
Yes, a reasonable police officer wouldn't try to apprehend a victim they thought was on drugs or being violent.
How did Ray respond to Officer Hart's direction?
Due to a language barrier, Ray seemed uncooperative and began to walk away.
At that point, did Officer Hart continue to peacefully, verbally inform the witness?
No, at that point, Hart began to escalate the situation.
And what was Hart's first reaction?
To pull out the firearm.
Mr. Olger, bringing your past experiences with the safety of local law enforcement to light, do you believe that Nat Hart's actions make anyone safer?
Quite the opposite. Hart demonstrated the aggressive and hostile behavior that far too often leads to dangerous and, in this case, deadly interactions between officers and the public.
Do you think Nat Hart's actions were necessary?
No, whatever the perception may have been, the facts and circumstances simply do not allow Hart to lawfully pull out his firearm in the presence of Luganski.
Mr. Olger, do you believe Nat Hart was objectively reasonable?
Absolutely not. In my opinion, the misconduct that Hart showed towards Luganski was not even close to being objectively reasonable.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Yes, thank you. Do we have any?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Have you ever served as a police officer?
I have not.
In fact, your only profession has been providing information about police misconduct allegations, correct?
That's correct.
But you said that there is an institutional bias in favor of police officers, correct?
Towards those I saw during my project research, yeah.
And that you felt your opinions were discounted because of your lack of experience as an officer?
That is correct.
Is it true that you received a modest royalty every single time a police agency adopts a better way?
Yes, but
Yes or no answers only, please.
Yes.
You state that the job of an officer is becoming more and more dangerous, correct?
Yes.
And that it is understandable officers are often fearful for their safety?
Yes.
Would you agree that these dangerous situations are stressful for police officers?
Yes.
And that often these stressful situations involve split-second decision-making?
Yes.
So it would be reasonable to say that police officers have to make these difficult decisions very quickly.
In certain cases, yeah.
Have you reviewed the affidavit of Officer Hart?
I have.
So you're aware of her stellar record and long career of service?
Yes, I guess.
Due to your review of Officer Hart's affidavit, you understand the intense situation she was in on the night of September 7th, correct?
Yes.
So it would be reasonable for Nat Hart to draw her weapon in a situation she deemed dangerous.
Well, she didn't lawfully
Yes
do
or
it.
no, please?
No.
Do you believe emotion should be a factor in police decision-making?
No.
But in split-second decisions like Officer Hart's, wouldn't it be reasonable for an officer to use their expertise, knowledge, and circumstances of the situation to act accordingly?
Yes, but they didn't lawfully do it,
Yes or
so
no?
it doesn't matter.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect on the prosecutor?
May I have a moment, please, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Olger, why is it dangerous for police officers to base their actions off of emotional responses?
It can lead to misunderstandings.
Do you believe that they should be prepared for these?
Yes, they should. That should be part of their training procedure.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Any redirect?
Yes. So you have testified that emotion should not be a factor in police decision-making, correct?
Correct.
But if in a split-second decision like the one Officer Hart was present in, they have to rely on the circumstances around them and their knowledge and gained intellect from their career, correct?
Objection. Split second is never established in the affidavit.
Would you like to withdraw the question, counsel?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, you may step down. Thank you. Okay, one moment, please. Does the prosecution rest?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.